The only thing that we're interested in is putting money in your wallet. If you want to bet the fights, if you want to have a little bit of action, you are in the right place. With my partner, Ian Parker, I am Okamoto.
We're ready to rock between our parlays, our props, our straight picks. It's time to make money. Let's go.
It is UFC Fight Night from beautiful Charlotte, North Carolina this weekend. In a heavyweight main event, Jailton Almeida looks to continue his rise up the rankings against Jairzinho Rozenstruik. It all goes down at the Spectrum Center, which you can see before you. Hello, everybody. My name is Okamoto. I am in Charlotte at the Fighter Hotel on this beautiful Friday, alongside my partner, Ian Parker, who comes to us from his mother's basement in Florida. And apparently he's got his kids with him because we already taped a great show, but his daughter continued to interrupt every little bit of it.
Hi.
So we're going to have to retape it for you. The first one was good. I can't say much for the second one. It probably will not be as good, but hey, we'll try.
Yeah, you know, one, appreciate you with my mom's basement. Great Wi-Fi here. Thank you, Xfinity. Two, yeah, my daughter likes to keep me on my feet, and she definitely did that. Hopefully that made the blooper reel. But yeah, listen, I'm excited for this card. I think it's pretty sneaky good. Last week was not the best for our best bet. We did not do great. A couple of bad decisions went our way. Henry Cejudo split decision loss. Chrome Gracie, I got no excuse there. I take that one on the chin. That was brutally bad. Frivola Dober was really hoping to get to that end of the first round. We just missed that there. Parker Porter, Claudio Rivera looked awesome. And Phil Hawes, I thought he was going to wrestle. He decided, nope, I'm going to strike with this guy when I have no chin. And he went to sleep. So best bets did not do well. But this week, I'm very confident what we got coming up with this week's lineup.
Yeah, and listen, as we've always been, I mean, I don't know how long we've been doing this show now. It's been a while. We never run away from when we have a bad week on best bets. But this is a good time to bring up. I hope you guys are watching the show in its entirety because I even made mention of it last week. Ian liked a lot of underdogs. Unfortunately, we didn't make a ton of them our best bets. When you look at like the Bilal Muhammad, the Yan Xiaonan, Matt Frivola, not only did these cash, but they cashed pretty easy. So I hope you're listening to all the breakdowns because, Ian, you actually had a lot of good breakdowns on those underdogs. We didn't have them on the best bets.
Yeah, you know what? I liked Vernon Jandaroba. I really liked the style there. For Matt Frivola, it was in his backyard. You knew Dober was going to swing. So you had a puncher's chance. For Bilal, I felt that 5-round was really beneficial. The cardio worked, and that was the way to go. So for those of you that did tail and lean that way on the show, you guys did really well, and I'm happy you cashed on those dogs.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, and like I said, best bets are best bets for a reason. It's the ones we're the most confident on, but you're given good analysis throughout the entire card, so hopefully everybody's listening to those. And speaking of the entire card, let's take a look at the main card of UFC Fight Night this Saturday. It's a little bit of an earlier start time because we are on big ABC. You can see it on 3 Eastern, noon Pacific. Jairzinho Rozenstruik coming in as a pretty significant underdog here to Jailton Almeida, who has competed at light heavyweight and heavyweight. Looks like he's going to make heavyweight his home, at least for the time being. Anthony Smith taking on Johnny Walker in a very important light heavyweight bout. Daniel Rodriguez, Ian Gary, plenty to look at here on this main card. And like you said, Ian, I think it's if this card has a theme, it's about guys I think that have shown a lot of potential. Let's see how far that potential can go. You've got that, I think, against with Ian Parker. I mean, not Ian Parker, maybe Ian Parker a little bit. Ian Gary, right? You've got it with Ian Gary. You've got it with Daniel Rodriguez still a little bit, although I think he's had a couple off years. But then you've also got it in Johnny Walker, and then, of course, Jailton Almeida. Obviously, we've seen Almeida's potential. Are you a little surprised here, that he's a minus 500 against a guy in Rozenstruik who has had a lot of experience in these 5-round main events?
You know what? This is one of those litmus tests. We're going to find out what Almeida's truly made of. We know how good he is on the ground, and we know he's got some stand-up as well. When he takes the fight to the floor and uses that IQ, which he's done almost every single time, he's kind of unstoppable. He is a force. I think whether it's 205 or heavyweight, this guy's ground game is no joke. He's very smart about it, and he's getting better with the striking, which makes that takedown a little bit more unpredictable, which then leads to the submissions, which are absolutely devastating. He is fighting someone in Jairzinho Rozenstruik who has the experience in 5 rounds, but I think it's crazy to think this fight's going any more than 3 rounds. For Rozenstruik, he's got a good left hook. He fights off his back foot. However, he gets a little reckless sometimes, and we've seen him getting taken down very easily in the past, held down, controlled. The difference here is that if Almeida gets you down, you're not getting back up. And if you're getting back up, that's because they're picking you up after you just choked out and you just realized you lost. So I think Jailton Almeida, this is a good matchup for him to break into that top 7 category here, a top 10 category, and just kind of keep rising the ranks. I think he gets it done by submission. I think that's the right way to bet this one.
Okay, well, submission the pick then for Almeida, and I wonder, man. I mean, obviously we're going to see if Rozenstruik can stop this from happening, but like you say, if Almeida wins this and he does break into that top 7, what are those odds going to look like? Because as you can see here, his last 4 fights, you can see those odds, and then including this one where he's also a pretty significant favorite against a guy with a good track record, quite frankly, in the UFC. The competition is going to go up, but man, minus 420, minus 575, minus 700, minus 1100. If Almeida goes out and looks great in his first main event, what kind of odds are we anticipating for him? And do you think that this guy is a future champion? Are we going to continue to put money on Almeida, or is eventually the value going to come back around against him?
Well, I think there's maybe 1 or 2 more fights, 1 or 2 more opponents where you'll see a number between minus 300 and 400. It may be like a Volkan Oezdemir, for example, if he were to fight him, because I don't think Oezdemir is going to stop the takedown. I think he can get a sub there as well. But once he fights someone like an Alexander Rakic or a Ankalaev or a Blachowicz, I think that's going to change a little bit. Guys with really good takedown defense who are going to be better strikers, more well-rounded, have the cardio to go 5 rounds with the pace. We have no idea what Almeida can do past round 2 at this point. You know, even past round 3, we have no idea if he's not able to get the sub or get the fight to the floor. Where's that gas tank at? We really have no idea, but I don't think it gets tested here. But to your point, Brett, or to answer your question, if he wins this fight and when he steps to that next level, the next territory of the elite, the odds probably will come down, and I'm very curious to see how well he gets battle tested.
Well, it's so interesting because all those names that you just mentioned are actually light heavyweights. But I'm not surprised that you made that mistake, I suppose, because he could compete in either one. He could be in heavyweight. He could be in light heavyweight. He's kind of said here or there that like maybe he's committing to this one. But I don't necessarily believe him, man. I think he's going to be one of those guys who just sort of feels it out, sees where the opportunities go. And yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how he fits in both of those categories because I don't think we're done seeing him in either one, regardless of what happens on Saturday. Let's look at this co-main event. Anthony Smith taking on Johnny Walker. Man, Johnny Walker has been an interesting one to bet on, right? It's either feast or famine with this guy. He either looks great, 6 wins in the first round in the UFC, but when he doesn't get it done in the first round, this guy has had, I think, some mental lapses. If you got money on him, I think you've probably been a little bit disappointed in his decision-making, his cardio, whatever the case may be. He's been both a very fun guy and also a frustrating guy to bet on. Anthony Smith, man, this guy has been around forever. He has remained extremely active. I'm a little surprised that Anthony Smith is coming in here at pretty much at dead even odds with Johnny Walker. I expected Walker to be favored here. Do you agree? And which side are we taking on this co-main event?
Well, real quick with the Almeida thing, real quick. I'm glad you corrected me. My whole thing was I think after this fight, he goes back to 205 because the size difference with the athleticism with the opponents, that's where it will change. In regard to Anthony Smith, Johnny Walker, this fight is very similar to what you were talking about, in my opinion, with Almeida, you know, and Rozenstruik. You got a guy who's getting a second chance on the up and up in Walker against a seasoned veteran Anthony Smith. And with Anthony, he seems to always float around that top 7 area. You know, he loses a couple that he wins. He goes on a little bit of a surge here. The question is, can his body hold up? You know, against Ankalaev, he took a couple of kicks. The ankle broke. We're getting to see his recovery. With Walker, are we seeing a smarter Johnny Walker? We've seen a little bit more hesitant, but then against, you know, Ian Kutalaba, he got that whole thing, then he got the sub win. You know, it's interesting. With Johnny Walker, he's got all the athleticism. He's got the skills. The question is the IQ going to follow? Is the cardio going to last? Like you said, we've seen him go 3 rounds. You know, I think in this fight, he's got to be smart. He's got to keep the fight at a distance, not rush in on someone like Anthony, who's a really good grappler. I got a different way to play this one. I'm a little confused by the line myself. I think this fight's going to start round 2 at minus 150.
All right, so we're getting a little bit of a prop there at starting the second round in that light heavyweight fight between Anthony Smith and Johnny Walker. If it does start the second round, Johnny Walker would be looking for his first win past the first round in the UFC, so that's an interesting one to keep an eye on. Let's go to the welterweight division here. Ian Garry taking on Daniel Rodriguez. Super interesting fight here to me because Ian Garry has looked great, I think, at times. And actually, he's looked very, very good, I think, in his last 2 fights. First 2 fights, I think he was getting his feet under him a little bit. He had that quick knockout in the UFC debut, but then the second one, everybody, a little boring. You know, we didn't really see the full range of skills. I think we've seen a lot more of Ian Garry's skills over the last 2 as he's gotten very, very comfortable. Daniel Rodriguez, a little bit of a different story. He showed me a lot of potential early on. Now, because of injuries, because of inactivity, he had trouble making weight here in Charlotte. So I'm very, very curious what you think about this line and ultimately what you think in the Parker's prop here for UFC Fight Night?
Well, I'll just play spoiler here. I like Ian Gary by decision. I think what you said about D-Rod made a lot of sense. He was on the up and up. He spoiled a couple of wins as an underdog. But then his last couple fights, I didn't think he beat the Leech. His last fight against Neil Magny, he got subbed. You know, he kind of got tired. He was getting outworked, which is not what you usually see out of him. His last 2 fights, you've seen a lack of output, which is something that D-Rock was really good about. Ian Gary, another great point you made. In his first fight, he was getting rocked, came back, got the knockout. Second fight, same thing, not as great. But now in his last fight, minus getting touched on the chin, he looked fantastic. The combinations, the pressure, the cardio. I think similar situation here. I think he wins a decision against a very good opponent in Daniel Rodriguez.
All right, so we're taking Ian Gary on the prop of the night by decision in that welterweight fight. Let's quickly go through, and here's the part I told you about, guys. Make sure you're listening to all of these picks because even though they might not make the best bets or the parlay, still a lot of good stuff here. So take it away, Ian. Take us through the rest of the card here on Saturday.
Brett, this is going to be a fun one. Poterier versus Carlos Ulberg. Ulberg, we know, as a sparring partner of Izzy Adesanya. I'm just going to tell you this one. He's winning this one by TKO or KO. There's no other way to bet this fight. I don't care what his opponent did to Shogun. Ulberg's going to come in here, and he is going to absolutely annihilate his opponent. Going on to the next one, we have a very interesting season fight. Tim Means versus Alex Morano. You know, Morano looked great against Santiago Ponzinibbio until he didn't in that third round. I think we're going to see a good old-fashioned veteran battle over 3 rounds. I'm going over 2.5 in this one. I think Means will be able to keep the distance away and help out Morano's pressure. Over 2.5 in that one.
Ooh, you're right. Tim Means, Alex Morano. That's the fight that the matchmakers put on to say, hey, if nothing else goes right at UFC Fight Night on ABC, we're going to get an action fight, at least to start it off, give the fans a little bit of something. So, yeah, I don't see any way that that fight is not good, and I like the call there at over 2.5. Okay, so we got the main card out of the way. Let's take a look at the prelims, which you can find on ESPN+. Take it away, Ian.
Well, talk about another veteran fight. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Matt Brown and Court McGee. I'm going over 2.5 rounds there. Carl Williams versus Chase Sherman. Brett, I think we've broken down this fight and picked it now 3 times. My pick stays the same. Carl Williams at that number. We're going to throw him in the parlay later on. Give me Cody Stamann over Andrade. Andrade did not look great on the scale. Also, the wrestling of Stamann, I think, is going to be the powerhouse there. The striking has gotten better. I think it gets it done there. We're going to go back to the point spread, although I failed miserably the first time on it. I'm going Mandy Bone plus 3.5 points. She just has to win 1 round on all the scorecards, and I think that fight, those odds are way wider than they should be. Brian Battle versus Gabe Green. I'm taking a shot on the hometown boy and Brian Battle. And last but not least, this is a fight I would recommend bettors to really stay away from, but if you have to, if you really feel the need to have action on this fight, I guess give me Jessica Rose Clark at even money. I'm assuming that she can grapple and win this one, but I have trouble trusting her. We've seen her make mistakes in other fights, so maybe that's a no bet to start the night.
Hey, man, I like that. I like it when you throw out that this is one where, we'll just watch this one for fun or grab yourself a snack because we don't have a real strong lean in this one. Okay, so let's move on to Parker's Parlay, which we've been real close, man, so much over the year. We've been flirting with it all year. What's Parker's Parlay this week?
On another episode, I need to find out what's your snack of choice for these fights. All right, we are going to start off with Almeida, the main event. This one, he's just got to win, doesn't matter how. Smith Walker, over a half a round. We did that last week. It missed by 10 seconds. I got to think these guys are going to make it past the second round. I'm going Ulberg, and I'm going Carl Williams here. We're going to get plus money. It's pretty chalky, but I'm trying to get a win this week with the Parker's Parlay. I think that's a conservative way to go.
All right, so we're staying conservative, but plus 123 on the Parker's Parlay. How about the best bets this week?
Oh, Brett, I am hoping, praying, and thinking I'm getting a sweep this week. I just feel it. Give me Almeida by sub, and only minus 115. That surprises me. I think he's going to get Rozenstruik down, take that back, and get that choke pretty quick. Smith Walker to start round 2. Anthony Smith's a very smart fighter. Don't rush in. He hasn't gotten tagged in a long time. He's a hard guy to finish in general. I think we're going into possibly the end of the second, third round with that fight. Means Morano over 2.5 rounds. Follow suit with another veteran over 2.5 in Brown and McGee. And last but not least, I'm a big believer in Cody Stamann. His opponent's very tough. He does have good striking, hard to put away. But I've seen a little bit of an improvement in Stamann's striking, which would then help the wrestling. And he's got the cardio to do it. So Stamann will be that last best bet for the week.
All right, I'm feeling the same as you, man. A sweep in the best bet sounds really good. And how about a sweep in the long shot parlay to really put us over the top? Where are we going with the long shot parlay?
Oh, this one was a very bold reach this week. Trying to, you know what, if we're going to do it, go big or go home. I haven't hit one this year. If this hits, this covers the whole year. Anthony Smith by submission. I think that's his route to winning this fight. Get the fight to the floor and try and take the back, tire him out and get it done. I like Alex Morano to win by decision. Carl Williams, get Chase Sherman to the floor and finish him KO, TKO. Cody Stamen by decision. Last but not least, this is the only one I'm actually concerned about. If it were to get there, is Brian Battle by submission at plus 700. He's got the skills to do it. He's got the long arms, long legs. And Gabe Green's not great at submission defense. However, it's a long shot for a reason, and that's a number, Brett, that if that doesn't get you excited, I don't know what will.
Yeah, man, the long shot parlay always excites me, but 3,600 is a nice number for here this Saturday, and it would be our first one of 2023. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling like a sweep. I'm feeling like a long shot parlay hit to close out this Saturday, UFC Fight Night. And don't forget about the early start time, guys. 11:30 prelims, and then 3 p.m. you can watch the main card, ABC. It is a fun main card on network ABC, headlined by a heavyweight fight between Jailton Almeida and Jairzinho Rozenstruik. That is it for us. For Ian Parker, myself, Brett Okamoto, thank you so much for watching the show. Join us right here next week again for another episode of UFC Best Bets. In the meantime, enjoy that money, enjoy the fights. Goodbye.